Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the March meeting of the Triangle SQL Server Users Group Data Science Subgroup. So, can't have an in-person meeting this month, but that's okay. We're going to do it strictly online. So, quick announcements. SQL Saturday Raleigh has been canceled in case I haven't said that enough times already. We'll try to pick it up again next year. Meetings will be online only through April. We're going to check at the end of April, beginning of May, figure out what we want to do for the future there. But at least for now, it'll be online only. Also, I am working to try to get a few extra side meetings, things that maybe we don't normally have a presenter for a slot, but there are a lot of presenters out there looking for presentation time to give. It's presenters standing on the street with signs that say "We'll present for free." So I want to take some of them up on the offer and maybe have a few extra streams over the course of the next month or so. All of that aside, let's switch over to Alicia's screen, and we're going to talk about, well, she's going to talk about cognitive services for us tonight.
Hi, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. So thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be participating tonight. I see Kevin around all the time, and I was thrilled that he invited me to participate. So thank you for having me.
Sure. So that presenter view is kind of impinging on the screen a little bit in case you didn't intend that. Now it's gone.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. So my name is Alicia. I'm a new Microsoft AI MVP. I like to speak on AI and SQL Server topics. And I have about 14 years or so of data warehousing and BI experience. I've been able to leverage that into a lot of the work that I'm doing in the cloud now. So I am an analytics lead with Avanade, and I am an Azure architect. So I do get to spend a lot of the time playing in the cloud and having fun with Microsoft technologies. So that's a little bit about me. What I'd like to talk to you about tonight is give you a little bit of exposure to cognitive services. We'll go ahead and do a demo, and then we'll go through all the steps involved in building a custom vision model. And then I'd also like to introduce you to Azure Notebooks, and we'll do a demo where we actually get to interact with the Face API. So Kevin, you did mention that it's a little harder to engage with everyone on the meeting, but I guess, are we able to do notes, or are people able to type into the chat as far as if you've already been exposed to cognitive services, or if you have built any of the AI models already, are they able to communicate back to us?
Yes. So I'll act as moderator and gatekeeper tonight. Anybody in chat, any experience that you've had with either cognitive services or working on AI models in general? There is a little bit of a time delay, so we have to build that in with vamping time. Several presentations seen, tried them out. So we have some positive attempts. Now, whether the results were positive, we'll find out maybe.
Oh, fantastic. And as far as my experience with the models, Microsoft has done a very, very good job with abstracting away a lot of the work and a lot of the time and effort that goes into building the machine learning models. So the cognitive services are a great way to almost immediately integrate AI into your applications. And not only that, but it's really easy to hand those tasks off to other team members so that they can immediately start contributing and immediately see the value of the technology. So it's really wonderful that they've put that modeling of the model to work for us, and we're able to immediately leverage that. So let's talk a little bit more about the APIs and how they function. So a lot of these technologies are new. A lot of people around the office know that I like to share with respect to what is AI in Microsoft, and how can we talk to our customers about these technologies, and as developers, how do we get more information, and how do we get more involved? So one of the pages that I tend to refer people to is the AI demos page. So we'll go ahead and I'll just pull that in. So this page is maintained by Microsoft, and what it is this is your entryway into interacting with all the APIs. The APIs are hosted on Microsoft Compute. They're already pre-packaged, and they're basically a parameterized way to interact with and receive results back from these machine learning modules that have already been built, trained, and optimized for you by Microsoft. So what we can do is we can go ahead and go to the AI demos page, and we can play around with the different APIs that are part of the suite. So one of the ones that I usually start off with are going to be either the text analytics or the computer vision. And so text, vision, and language are going to be those that are they've been around the longest, they're most oftenly used, and they're probably the most mature out of the suite. So we can go ahead and jump on over to text analytics. And right now we're interacting directly with the API. So you'll notice that you're able to pull sentiment out of your statement. And the next step is going to be key phrase extraction and entity linking. So you'll notice here that the text analytics has identified Hawaii as a location, and we can go ahead and click on the word Hawaii, and it'll take you to the Wikipedia page. So it's kind of interesting that the data set that they've used for a lot of this modeling is the Wikipedia data set. So if you're using terms and phrases or locations straight out of Wikipedia, then your accuracy is going to be fairly high, because these pages were part of the training set. So another thing I like to point out is if you've gone over to the computer vision. So now we're looking at what are the capabilities of what information we can pull out of images. And when you're looking at machine learning and AI, and you're talking about AI with images, what we're doing is we're not training a model using code. We're training a model by using examples. And that's what the images represent. They represent examples of either false positives or true positives for our cases. So the four main functionalities of the Vision API are going to be analyze and describe images. So we can go ahead and pick one of the images, and we'll have some text pop out. We'll have our confidence levels. We'll have a description. And you'll notice there's also an indicator for racy and adult content. And I think this is fantastic when you think about the importance that Microsoft is placing as far as responsibility, and the huge amounts of data privacy that we're going to start having to help deal with and start helping our businesses deal with when some of these data privacy laws come across. A lot of these applications for machine learning are going to be there to help us with our labeling and classification with these huge amounts of data that we've collected over the years. So it's also interesting to know that with the text, as Microsoft makes more advances with their text analytics, like we'll also see higher accuracy and correlation with some of the information that we are able to pull out of our images. So having all of this functionality in one suite is actually a good thing for us because we're actually able to leverage improvements across the cognitive services suite. So some other additional cool functionality is being able to pull out text from imagery. So this image has a 42 up here and a 42 down here. And we're able to pull out boat instances as well as the word straight. We're able to pull out handwriting and imagery. So a lot of applications in the medical and legal fields for transcription. And then celebrities and landmarks. So machine learning is, this is supervised learning. So what they've done is they've collected and curated their data set to provide a fixed result. So because they're able to, so it's recognized celebrities and not recognize all Americans because celebrities is a fixed data set and they're able to have X many pictures of every celebrity to increase likelihood of a true positive. So it's kind of interesting how when we go through the APIs and we look at the functionality, there's going to be some domains that are tied specifically to use either physical landmarks or to this celebrities feature.
We have 2 questions in chat if you're fine with that.
Sure, absolutely.
First question
no, I'm so excited.
First question is that your laptop battery about to die?
Possibly. And what was the second question?
So the other one, the real question in chat, is there a reason that visual AI has tags pop out, but that text NLP is sentiment in the examples that you showed? So questioner would like to have tags to pull out of NLP, like perhaps labeled parts of speech. Do you know if cognitive services allows for that type of scenario?
I don't work as much with the NLP, so honestly, I wouldn't be able to say. And I do know that the NLP is a lot more restrictive. So so because the learning is trained and supervised, right? You need so many sets of data, and part of the thing that you have to factor in with the languages is the number of dialects, right? And somebody who speaks English so I'm from Hawaii, I have a heavy Hawaiian accent. And so the regional accents affect the language at that nation. Does that make sense? So you have to have enough of a data set to have a certain degree of confidence. And so I think that we can do a little bit more with text than we can with language. And I think they're up to a dozen languages or so where they are able to guarantee with a certain level of confidence. But it's definitely not all languages and definitely not all dialects.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and I'm sorry, if you give me like 2 minutes, I'm going to grab my charger. I apologize. 1 second.
That's okay. I'll vamp during the meantime. Although I'm not very good at vamping on demand. That's kind of a problem that I've got. I'm gonna have to work my way through that. So while Alicia grabs her charger, things coming up for the month of April. We do have several good speakers on our agenda. So if you're interested in the advanced DBA side of things, I'm just pulling up the schedule right now. So I'm double vamping. I'm vamping while I pull up a schedule so that I can vamp for our speaker. In April, we have Samir Bahara talking about a microservices architecture. And you're going to have to wait until the end of tonight's talk to hear about the other stuff. Mike, that's vape, not vamp. Vamping is a little different. All right. Now, back to the show.
Yeah. So thank you. And now you know that I'm that type of person where I will drive my car home on E. and just cross my fingers and pray that I make it, right? So it drives my husband crazy. Okay, so we can go ahead and look at the functionality of computer vision and custom vision. And we had stepped through kind of high level some of the things that we can extract from an image. And that is computer vision. It's a defined, pre-built machine learning model that Microsoft has they've already curated their data set. They've already guaranteed certain accuracy, and they have prescribed outputs. And that is the computer vision API aspect of cognitive services. Now, what happens when you want to answer a question that's outside of the existing module? That's where we can go ahead and use our own images and build our own model and conduct our own training, and that is the custom vision API. So we can go ahead and upload our own data set, do a quick train, and do a quick evaluate. So another thing that we can do with the custom vision API is we can conduct object detection. So I've seen a lot of applications where people are trying to either reduce routes or reduce the number of service calls to remote fields. And what they'll do is, an application of this is they'll go ahead and put cameras on so they'll use camera video footage, and they'll, instead of sending people out, they'll go ahead and pull from the video if maybe like a power line is down, or if some big type of machinery located in a field is no longer working. Then they'll go ahead and identify the event and send that information back, instead of having a field worker either make the rounds or do the manual check. So here in Houston, one of the projects that we were working on was they actually have these big diggers. So these diggers have these huge claws. So sometimes while digging, a tooth will pop out of the claw and will fall with the payload into the crusher. And because the digger's metal is so much thicker than the crusher, these teeth were actually breaking the grinding mechanisms in the crusher. And then so not only do you have a broken crusher, but you have downtime for the entire period while you're waiting for the maintenance to occur, right? So the project ended up, there were little cameras mounted on the top of the claw, and it was just a check to make sure that all the teeth were there, and an alert and notification if it was determined that one of the teeth were missing. And everything would stop until the tooth was cleared. So I think we're going to, as we're moving forward with, there's a lot of opportunities for us to leverage these technologies in the predictive maintenance areas so that we can minimize these downtimes and we are able to respond a lot more quicker to these scenarios, right? So I am in Vegas, and I moved to Houston just a little bit after the floods. I'll go ahead and mute that. So I'm not sure if you're aware, but Microsoft has a section on their website for AI for Good. And they actually do a lot of sponsorship for projects that help people in different scenarios and circumstances across the world. So one of the applications that I think there's a lot of room for benefit and improvement in is definitely these flood alerting situations. And so I'm from Hawaii. I just moved to Houston maybe about 2 years ago, and Houston has angry rain. It'll be fairly mellow out, and within 30 minutes, there will be like a downpour of rain just everywhere. And it's to the point where the roads get flooded and you're scared to drive. And the roads that are flooding are not these side roads, they're these middle of the city roads. So when you're looking at applications of this technology, there definitely is a way for us to use existing systems that are mounted. So this is a canal that's already being monitored by the water district. So there's really no additional hardware that we need to procure or install. We've already got a video stream lined up. And the question is, is there an opportunity for us to take some of these existing systems and leverage the data to make these decisions faster or make more useful decisions and just improve our ability to respond to events, right? So that's what I'd like to do with you today is I'd like to go ahead and build a custom vision model. And what we'll do is I have a subset of some screenshots that I've taken from this video, from this angle. And let's see if we can make some intelligent decisions based off of this data. So what you need to get started is going to be an Azure subscription. And let me just get signed in. And I'll go ahead and bring that over. Sorry, MFC, right? So we're going to go ahead and navigate to the customvision.ai subdirectory. I've got some demos there. Oh, was it Valentine's Day? It was Valentine's Day. That's funny. So one of the things I really enjoy about any of the AI offerings is they make it really easy for you to get your hands dirty. And you can do anything AI related on a free tier. So right now I've got one project already sitting in here. I can have up to 2 projects in here for free. We're going to do a new project. So I'm going to call it AI for Good. I've already got my resource group set up and configured in my subscription. So we have our 2 different project types here. So we have classification, which is going to be pretty much a binary, yes or no. And then we have object detection. Right now, what I'd like to do is I'd like to test for flood and no flood. I don't think that I need to extract anything out. So that would be a project type classification. And single tag is going to be okay for me. So as we look down here to the different domains, when we were stepping through the AI demos page, one of the things that we had seen was the celebrities and landmarks domain. So what this means is you can go ahead and build your own custom vision module, but if you select one of these food or landmark domains, you have the added benefit of utilizing their curated set of data. So it's kind of interesting to me at this point, because with the way that Microsoft is going with open source and with the exponential growth in the usage of AI technologies, I can see people generating their own domains, sharing domains, selling domains, and this huge capability of leveraging other people's curated data sources. And I think that's amazing to me, because that really lets a bigger group of people gain insights versus people who have the wherewithal to collect that data. And I know right now with COVID-19, they were able to release a data set for analysis. And I just think that's wonderful out there, because we're able to action against that data so much quicker in a crowdsourcing type of a way versus if we hoarded that data. And to balance that, there are data privacy laws, but I think that's a challenge that we'll continue working against as we work more with data, right? So we're going to go ahead and do general. Go ahead and create that project. And we can add images. Sorry, I take a lot of pictures. So we can go ahead and select everything in the folder at one time, and we can go ahead and do an auto tag. So all these images are the waterway when the waterways at a flooded state. And I can go ahead and add the next set, which I'll just call OK. And this is my binary test, right? So we've got 20 flooded, 20 OK. And I've got images here with water over the lens. And we'll do a quick train. And we can do a quick test. So we can see the probability is 87.4% that this is a flooded occurrence. And you'll notice that the lens is fairly foggy, but with an 87.4% chance, that's a pretty good call on that picture. And this image was actually part of the training set. So the accuracy percentage is 100%.
So one question is, can it detect the difference between wet and cloudy versus just out of focus?
So I haven't had enough. And the question is going to be, what is enough? Does that make sense? So when you're using images to kind of define your yes/no scenario, you really want to provide enough yeses and enough nos. So if I threw in 1 or 2 out of focus occurrences, then I don't think it would be enough. But if I threw in an equal amount of unfocused and an equal amount of focused, then that should do enough to remove that as a variable to the outcome. Does that make sense?
It does. It does.
Yes. And so when you're looking at like people, let's take people. So I like my sweets, and sometimes during the winter, my face changes, right? I don't exercise as much. I probably eat more than I should. And, I'm just happy with life because I'm happy houring like every Friday. And so my face gets a little rounder. And if I'm going to train a data model to, and I don't know how people do this, but to open my phone, then I would think I would have to include images of me not only skinny, but me during the winter when I'm not as skinny, right? Because how would it know? And so when you're working with this model and when you're working at, well, what can I do to improve my accuracy? You have to give it variety. So it's not only the front of your face, it's the side of your face, probably not the back of your head, but enough variety. And then you want to look at lighting. So there's shadows that affect like the ratios on your face. And so there's many, many things. And then you have to look at, are you duplicating what naturally occurs, right? So if you take all of your images of, say you pile all of your fruit onto the table and they're under the light, under the camera, and you're taking your pictures there, and then you take your application to the supermarket and you're trying to identify fruits in the supermarket where they're stacked on top of each other. The water shoots on, so maybe they're a little wet sometimes, or they're not directly in front. They're sometimes to the side or behind other objects. Then your model isn't going to have enough variety and isn't going to have enough intelligence or examples to decipher that is the fruit that you were looking at. So the flip side of this is, how long did it take me to get like a binary yes or no out of this, and how many pictures did it take? So it took me 40 pictures. So in 40 pictures, you can get a data model that, and this is no programming, right? How long would it take you to show somebody that you worked with how to do what we just did? And I think that is like the amazing thing behind the Cognitive Services Suite, because this is really and truly AI for everyone. we use Power BI. You can go ahead and integrate AI functionality in that, and just abstracting away that machine learning and pre-packaging and pre-building all of that in the back end really makes the technology available, I think, to a bigger set of users. And now you're not focusing on doing all the math and doing all the coding. What you can really focus on is getting a better data set, right? Finding your true positives or true negatives, and really honing down. And it's kind of like when you work with data and you talk to the business and they're talking about data points and the levers that drive their business. Like, we can really focus on the levers because the tech is abstracted away. So I hope that makes sense. And I hope you're as excited as I am about that. And this is our data model that we built in probably under 5 minutes. So we do have a little bit of time. What I'd like to do is, and we can ask, has anybody worked with Azure Notebooks? And Azure Notebooks is going to be the Azure version of Jupyter Notebooks.
So while people are waiting to respond, I can say yes, including with F#.
Oh, interesting.
So from chat, seen a demo.
Okay, so I love Azure Notebooks. I'm going to, I try to use it in as many of my presentations as I can. And if you use Azure Data Studio and you're familiar with the ability to combine your markup and your markdown code with images and all that goodness, then you'll feel perfectly at home here. So as part of my work, I spend a lot of time working with people who are new out of school, and they're new to the Microsoft services. And the Azure Notebooks really gives me a way to package up my code, make it user friendly, make it easily consumable, and I can again access it no matter where I am because it's browser based. So the notebook is going to be JSON formatted, and it will talk to the Jupyter kernels, and the Jupyter kernels are running on Azure Compute. So you don't have to worry about, I don't know if you've gone through the process of having to update your Python libraries and somebody sends you a 3.3 code, a 3.3 version code, and you're still on 2.1. So you have to start the whole process all over. And then I'm a Windows person, and that isn't Windows methodology, installing the libraries. So I tend to miss steps. And this way I'm able to get through my code, I'm able to get through my demos, and I'm able to kind of pass that information along without having to install anything locally on my PC. So let's talk about the Face API. So I would like to point out the documentation that's available for all of the APIs. And let's go ahead and go to this link. So you can go ahead and interact with it directly here. Sorry, let me just find the documentation really fast. And And what the API documentation will do is it will, because the APIs are pre-formatted and pre-configured, they'll let you know what calls you can make against the API. It will tell you what format the API is expecting the data in, and also give you an example of the expected result set. So this is the 3.0, but I want to look at the 2.0. Okay, so this is the call for the computer vision API. And you'll notice here that they actually list the regions out. So because the cognitive services APIs are hosted in Azure, for the new APIs, they'll roll them out by region, and they by default will not at the onset be available in all the regions. So if you're looking to utilize a newer cognitive services API, I definitely would just default to either East US or West US, just because by default they're one of the first ones to get the latest APIs out. What you'll do is you'll see a brief description of what the function call does. You'll have a request URL. So these are JSON formatted calls to the API, so they will occur in a post message, right? You'll see the different parameters that are available via the call. The header types, what should go in the body, definition of the various response types. And this is an example of what's returned back from the call. So this is JSON breaking out. So we had earlier seen a picture of Satya. We have coordinates, a confidence level, not racy, okay, and some tags. Now, what they also do is we've got more response messages, and these are our error handling code. They actually have code samples in various languages. So if you're trying to get started with one of the new APIs, you can go ahead and jump in here. And I've got this in my notebook code, but I've also just dropped this into Postman to simulate the application communication. So this is one of the newer APIs, the Face API. And when we're looking at what we can get returned back from the API, we can get coordinates, landmarks, attributes. At the attribute level, there's age, gender, smile, facial hair, head pose, glasses, emotion, hair. Now, looking at the documentation, it does say up to 100 people in an image, but I think that's probably stretching it a little. I have been playing around with groups of under 20 and gotten really good accuracy. So we've got our Python 3.6 code. We have our import libraries, our headers. This is going to be our key to our API model. So our parameters are going to be, I would like to ask the question, and how many of the speakers in the picture are female and how many of the speakers are male? So people tend to wear their hair at different lengths, and especially in IT, right? So I figured if I coupled gender with facial hair, then that would be a good fact checker, because, you know, I've yet to kind of curate the skill of mustache growing. So I think if we checked for gender and facial hair together, then we'd be able to catch some of these false positives. So the image that I'm using is going to be in my notebook as well as my code. So I'm going to go ahead and just back up. So I'm able to store not only my code, but also my code dependencies on free compute. And this is the picture that I'm using for the demo today. Oh, that's a really big version of that picture. So it's hasbug.jpg. Let me see if I have it somewhere else. And I want to say it's this one. So there's 4 of us. So I can go back to my code. I'm going to go ahead and open the file. I'm creating a HTTP connection to my model that is running on Azure Compute. And there's different directories for the APIs. So you'll notice that the string does direct me to the base subdirectory. So we can go ahead and run that. And I've got one male here, beard 0.4, mustache 0.1, 0.1 with the sideburns. We've got one more male, beard 0.1, mustache 0.1, sideburns 0.1. One female, and I do not have a beard. So yes, that worked. And one more male at the end. So we can go ahead and pull that picture in. So it's kind of interesting to, when we talk about, you know, how do we, and as a speaker at IT events, this is something that speakers talk about, is how do we get females more engaged, more involved at IT events? And I think part of it is increasing women speakers at IT events. And well, how do we measure that we're increasing that metric, right? Because there isn't a lot of events that ask me if I'm male or female. And I do see this functionality as a tool where we're able to start capturing some of those demographics so that we can start tracking our progress against different initiatives that involve those demographics. So, so I do think it's neat, but I do think you need to take a couple of data points. I wouldn't rely solely on the gender flag, right? And again, everything is relative, right? So is there enough lighting? How are people dressed? Is this a construction workplace where everybody wears a safety helmet? Then, you know, obviously there's a different additional variable that you'd use in making that determination. But I think that this is definitely a tool that we can start leveraging to at least start scraping information off of historical information that we already have. So if we have speaker pictures of past events over the last couple of years, then, you know, that's a set of data that we can go ahead and run the API against, and we can go ahead and pull that additional information out without having to recreate the data or re-poll the event attendees, right? So I think that the tools are there to help us with our labeling and classification of data that we already have. And they're going to continue to look at ways to provide value and to fill in the missing pieces for data that we've all been collecting, right? So exciting things. So I can take any questions.
So there was a question. I kind of did answer it, but I'll give it to you anyhow. So wouldn't you need labels for these images?
So we really quickly did label these images, and that's how quick and user-friendly the tool is when we had built our model, we had very quickly and at the same time labeled everything either flood or no flood.
Right, for the custom data set. So for the person's data set, that's a pre-trained model that does not require you bring your own labels.
Oh, yes, no. So they have curated their data, and they have already defined what a female is and what a male is, and they have already defined what a nose is, so that they can, with a degree of accuracy, provide those back via the API.
Okay.
Does that make sense? So we can go ahead and look at the documentation again. So the API's documentation will let you pull any of these things out. So if anybody's been to the Microsoft offices in Seattle, they had a what's your age estimator that displayed this functionality where it gave you a visual age. And it's kind of interesting though, because I was absolutely able to pull it and smile versus no smile. So if I did not smile, I did not have wrinkles on my face and it thought I was younger. But if I smiled, my face wrinkles popped out and it gave me a much higher age. So it's kind of interesting because looking at the data set that was provided to that model, you would want to kind of question how those images were labeled, right? But all of these things are built already. So smile intensity, number between 0 and 1, and you are passing either an image or a URL to an image, and they are doing all the work. So no programming whatsoever, just the post message passing the data over. And this was, so gender and facial hair were the only parameters I submitted.
That seemed to be enough to tell.
Yeah.
All right. Anybody in chat have questions? Now is a perfect time to ask them. Actually, 30 seconds ago was a perfect time to ask them, but now is a perfectly acceptable time to ask them. So can facial recognition recognize specific individuals?
Oh, absolutely. So, but we go back to the variety, right? And over what period of time? And so there's already a number of, there was an airlines that was using passport photos, right? And there were some schools who were like private schools where, as a safety measure, they were having kids do the facial recognition. And, you know, that really pulls into play the importance of data privacy, right? And so where are you getting my picture? Do you have authorization to use my picture? When you send your kids to school, they need to ask you before they're able to use your child's likeness, because there's training involved, and they're not doing the training. They're sending it to a third-party vendor. The third-party vendor is hosting those images. Where are they hosting those images? Is it in the United States, or is it in a country somewhere where we don't know if the transit of the data is secure? So a lot of these things come into play. But if you have enough images, I can probably upload 20 pictures of myself and get like a 75 to 85% accuracy. And you can absolutely code your own app where you get an alert if somebody other than you is at your doorway, right? So there's definitely the functionality there, but I would say you'd probably have to update your pictures every 6 months or so, just because, you know, sometimes guys grow facial hair, and girls will either dye our hair, or we'll cut it, or we'll style it a little differently. So you want to keep enough variety in there where it has enough examples to make that determination. So, but for this application, you can absolutely use this API to do an easy track like that. So, and it's super fun. So sign up for an account, sign up for a free Azure account if you're not on the Azure, and you can do quite a few transactions for free. You can, so in the Custom Vision API where we are here, you can do 2 projects for free. And so I'm using one project right now. And you can, so in the back end, we had built an API that sits on the Azure cloud, and you can do, I think it's 1 vision, 1 language, and 1 text at the free level. And it's something like up to, I think it's 500. Actually, we can go ahead and look at that. But you can do quite a few predictions for free. So they make it very easy to get involved and engage.
So while you're doing that, is there a way to send a pre-trained model to cognitive services as opposed to doing your own training like you did with the flood images?
So you cannot import a model, but you can export a model. So there are other vision tools out there, and you can export out of cognitive services into the other, like there's TensorFlow and other vision analysis software out there, and they're compatible that way, but you cannot import in.
Okay, thank you.
So we can drop down to, sorry, is this the pricing page? Azure pricing. So for computer vision, we can do up to 10 requests per second. And this is S1, the currency. Go to West US. $1 per 1,000 transactions. So and okay, so the S0 used to mean free, but I don't see the S0 tier anymore. So I think 0 to 1 million transactions at $1 per 1,000 transactions. And then this will get you tag, face, get thumbnail, color. So this is when we were pulling out analytics from the image and forming sentences. So this is celebrities and landmarks. So $1.50 per 1,000 transactions. And once you train the model, it's I usually pass things one at a time. So to get up to 1 million for me I would have to be running a project at a client site, I think, and doing mass labeling of things. But that's kind of a lot of the foreseed usage of these APIs is going to be bulk labeling and classification, and like doing that 80% of work so that our knowledge workers are left with a smaller chunk, that 20% where they have to actually make human decisions and action against. So $1.50 per 1,000 transactions for text. So I do see a lot of usage for sentiment in the text request, and you can definitely type this against, well, the text analytics against like Twitter feeds, but there's a lot that you can do for $1.50, right? And you're paying for your predictions, you're not paying for your curated data set. Okay.
All right. One last question. This one I'm not sure that you'll be able to answer, but I promised I would ask it anyhow. Do you know if cognitive services can do a decision tree combo, or is it CNN or CNN only?
I'm not sure what the methodology is behind it.
Yeah, I wasn't sure either. My first thought was, I don't think they tell us.
I think so. I think what they do is they give you the best result set, right? So I know you go through different methods, but the beauty behind this is that I actually don't have to spend any time kind of building it. It's already built out there, right? So
Okay, fair enough.
I can research that though if I can try to find that information if you'd like to. Oh, I can pass it back to you, Kevin, and you can pass it back to them.
Sure, I'd say don't kill yourself doing it, but if there's an easy answer, sure, I can pass that along. All right, I think that was all of the questions in chat.
Okay, well, thank you everybody for the time, and I hope that I'm showing you at least one thing that you weren't aware of or have been exposed to, and I hope I've piqued some interest in the cognitive services. So thank you for your time tonight.
All right, thank you again, Alicia. Now we are gonna wrap up tonight's talk, virtual user group meeting. So the next meeting will be second Tuesday of April. We're going to have Samir Bahara talking to us about a microservices architecture for the Advanced DBA group. The third Tuesday of April, we're going to have Jess Borland talking about the roles and responsibilities of the Azure Data Engineer. And the fourth Tuesday of April, Brad Llewellyn will talk to us about Azure Databricks. We've got a packed schedule plus the possibility of maybe one or two additional full-length talks. So hope to see you again soon. Thanks again, everyone, for showing up tonight or for checking out the VOD afterwards. Have a great one.